everybody. On behalf of the Highland Park Public Library, we'd like to welcome you to Library in Your Living Room. We are pleased to present Shelf Isolation, a weekly mini-series about what to read, watch, and play next. I'm Catherine, and this is your Information and Reader Services Department. To begin, I'm going to turn things over to Readers Roundtable expert and moderator, Michelle.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle, and I just wanted to talk about a couple of things I've been reading over the last week. The first is a book I just finished listening to. It is called Every Bone a Prayer. It's by Ashley Blooms. It is the story of a 10-year-old girl named Misty who lives with her family in a trailer in a holler in the Appalachian Mountains. She knows that her home is different. And she has a secret, which is that she can talk to things, animals, buildings, trees, anything. So she lives with her family, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of objects started appearing outside of their trailer, and some things have been happening, and she really doesn't know what to do after terrible things started happening. It's a really great book. It's a very difficult book. It does include some very difficult topics. And I do say that if you like magical realism, it's really great, but it is very heavy on the magical realism. So if you just like a little dash of magical realism, this might not be the book for you. But I really liked it. It had a really hopeful ending about healing, and the author herself was a survivor of sexual abuse, so she knows how very important it is to know what triggers you, and she definitely talks about it on the beginning of the book and on her website, but I do recommend it. It was really good. And secondly, I just started reading Florence Adler Swims Forever. It's by Rachel Beanland, and it's actually going to be the next book for the Judy Liven book discussion, which happens on March 9th at 1 o'clock on Zoom. And the details will be below. So hopefully you have time. Please pick up the book and read it, or don't read it. And please join us for the discussion. We'd be happy to see you. And that's all for me today. Have a great day.
Okay. All right. So this week I was in the mood for a nonfiction book. I've told you guys in the past, like I switch it up. I don't know. This week I was in the mood for a nonfiction, and this is something that I don't normally read, but it kind of intrigued me because I judged the book by its cover, is what I did. I saw it, and it intrigued me. It's not like the best cover ever, but it's called I've Seen the End of You, a neurosurgeon's look at faith, doubt, and the things we think we know. It's by W. Lee Warren, who was a neurosurgeon. And from time to time, I like to read about things that like neurosurgery. I know it's crazy, but I'm fascinated with people like who do like these surgeries that, I mean, I can't, begin to imagine how a person, can do that. So this was a pretty good book. It was well written. It is I want to say it's like a kind of like a memoir of the things that he's been through. It's very emotional because, I mean, without giving things away, but I mean, you can imagine like people with brain cancer that are, things that are inoperable or they're operable. It just fascinated me. And this is a book, like a very like faith-driven book. And it's not really a genre that I read normally, but I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought, I enjoyed it. It is a very emotional book. I can't imagine what this guy has been through. He did lose his son at a young age. His son, I think, was, I want to say like 18 years old. This is after of him like being in the Iraq War and talking to people who are going through people suffering with brain cancer and stuff like that. He's been through a lot, and that's kind of what intrigued me about the book. But it was, like I said, it was well written. I enjoyed it, and if you guys like, I guess like a faith-based book, but even more so about neurosurgery. If anybody's like me, it just kind of fascinated with just kind of wondering about how a person does that. I still don't. I mean, I still don't know. I mean, I'm thankful for people like that. But the point is, as bad as we think we have it, some people have it a little bit worse, and that's kind of what it taught me. But it gets you thinking about life. So that's it. That's all I've been doing this week. I've read this one. It's a pretty quick read. I've seen The End of You by W. Lee Warren. So check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks.
This week, I've been listening to one of my favorite podcasts, which is called Craftlet. It's just craft and let's mashed together into one word. And it is, I believe the tagline is for crafters who love books. So it's right there in the title. The host, Heather Ordover, is a former teacher. And the setup of the show is that there's a little talk about various crafts, especially knitting and crochet at the beginning. And then there is some classic literature to listen to. So a few chapters every week, and Heather sort of lightly teaches the book. So you get more out of it that way. And the whole idea is if you're busy doing something with your hands, or, you could be driving, you could be exercising, you can still get a book. So this podcast has been running for about 15 years. So they have done many books. There's a whole archive of books you can go back to, so you can find a book that you like. But the one that has just started that I've been listening to is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. So this is not Austen's most popular novel, but it is one that's worth a look. I think it's a little less serious. It was the first novel that she wrote. It was actually not published until after her death. And I think it was published at the same time as Persuasion. And it's just kind of fun. It features a young woman, of course, named Catherine Morland. She loves Gothic literature, and all the novels that she read kind of lets her imagination get away from her sometimes. Of course, there are rival suitors, there are misunderstandings that drive a lot of the plot. I was watching an episode of Bridgerton with my husband earlier this week, and my husband said, I see why this show is popular. There's a lot of sauntering and furtive glances, and that's what people like in a TV show. And that's what I think people like about Northanger Abbey. So you can listen to the book, you can read the book, but there is also a very good movie version that was on Masterpiece Theater. And it was, I believe, wildly popular in all the countries in which it aired, which you can now find on DVD. It has sauntering and furtive glances and Felicity Jones. So that is delight as well. So this is a story that you can enjoy many different ways. Dive a little deeper into Jane Austen if you have not, or, just go back to it. There's a reason why Jane Austen has been popular for, these many years.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I'm the archivist. This morning, the Google Doodle caught my eye because there was a picture of a girl and a violin. So, of course, that piqued my interest because I never heard of Zitkala-Sa. So I decided to investigate, and I didn't have too much time to read today. But she was a young woman, a Sioux, who was and also a talented musician and composer who was moved to re-education in Indiana for a school. And we do have some books by her and some children's books about her life, and on Google Books as well. It's interesting to have her recollections of moving between two cultures. And so I thought it was a really exciting to learn about something I didn't know about and read her words. She wrote a lot as well as composing, and her articles were published in magazines like The Atlantic. Now, our subscriptions don't go that far back to the turn of the 19th, 20th century, but you can find some of the articles that she writes about her culture and her views and mixing Native American and Western cultural influences in her work. And there are several items of her work available through the library by her, about her. So I hope everyone can enjoy learning about someone we haven't heard a lot about. And she's also very involved in the suffrage movement. So since I was on that vein this morning with Native Americans, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the little bit we have in our collections about Native Americans who, of course, lived here before the Treaty of Chicago of 1833. So this is a picture in our collection. Here, what does that? It was taken by a local pedagogue, Jesse Lowe Smith. He went to Montana to see Glacier National Park in 1913, and he took a picture, which of course is still Blackfeet Nation, and took a picture of this powell the Blackfeet Indians have and still have to show Americans and other visitors about their culture. And we also can have a high resolution request. It's on our archives catalog. And this is another in the early, again, Mr. Jesse Lowe Smith. Some people thought these were actual teepees, but as far as I can tell, was that when at Elm Place School, when they talked about Native Americans, Mr. Smith was a very progressive pedagogue in the early 20th century. And so he liked to act things out, go around, take pictures of manuscripts. So they created teepees. And this, I think, I'm like 90% sure, this is actually the Elm Place School where they set up teepees to teach the children about how Native Americans lived. And little bit resources we have documenting various things that happen in Highland Park. And with that, I'll pass that to Lori. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. This past week, I finished reading a book that I'd been reading for a while, a nonfiction book called Stampede, Gold, Fever, and Disaster in the Klondike by Brian Kastner. It's nonfiction, and it's about the Yukon Gold Rush, which took place in 1896 and 1897. It was very interesting. He is, you know, the kind of writer who really makes history come alive, for want of a better term. He, you know, gives a little background about why people, there was a great panic and a huge depression in 1893, and people were, you know, poor and had lost everything that they had. And it kind of sets the stage for why, if someone suddenly, you know, came with gold nuggets from the Klondike, why so many people would just like leave everything and get on any kind of boat that they could and head up there. And he uses a lot of, you know, first person memoirs and oral histories. You know, one of the most famous people, Jack London, the author, went up as part of the gold rush. He did not make he barely made it through the winter. He had a terrible, terrible case of scurvy. My colleagues have heard me describe scurvy because in the book, Brian Kastner explains how horrible scurvy really is. And anyway, back to Jack London, he did not find any gold. I don't even think he panned for gold, as it turned out. And he went back to California and, you know, made his living writing about his experiences in the wild, like for the rest of his life. And then there are many other people, you know, a few who did get very wealthy, most who didn't. He does a really nice job of making you understand what they're like, what these people were like, and what it was like to live there in the Klondike then. It was really the wild, wild West. And so I highly recommend it if you like, you know, even the author Candace Millard or Timothy Egan. If you're like Jack London, you'll see a different aspect of him through this. If you like books on travel and adventure and history, I recommend this one. And that's what I've been reading. So that's all I have. I'm going to, you know, pass it back to Catherine. Thanks for listening.
That is it for today, folks. As always, please remember that we are all here for you. We are available for comments, questions, or concerns that you may have. Visit our website at hplibrary.org to find the various ways to contact us. Because the library's hours and services can change suddenly due to COVID, it is best to contact us via email or chat on our website before coming to the library. Our music today was Carefree by Kevin MacLeod. You can find more information about this and the titles we mentioned in our show notes below. Okay, everybody, this is us signing off. Until we see you next, stay safe.